He goes on to say, he says, let not one who sees amazing feats at the hands of these mujaddid be deceived. Magic has a great effect on the actions. The same applies to those who transform one form to another through magic and other means, shape-shifting. The magicians of Fir'aun filled the valley with snakes and serpents until Musa ﷺ himself felt fear within himself, and Allah depicted it as great magic. Magic can be used to perform even greater feats. Ibn Battuta and others mentioned that he saw some people in India having a huge fire kindled for them and wearing only thin garments, walked into the fire and came out still wearing those clothes as if the fire had not touched them at all. He also mentioned that he saw a person in the presence of one of the Indian kings bringing 2 children. He amputated those children limb by limb, threw the limbs in different directions. Then he cried out and wept, and those present saw each of these limbs moving back together until both children were whole and living again. He mentioned all of this in his travels. His travels were extensive, and his work detailing them has been summarized. I read it while in Mecca in the year 1136 Hijri, and it was dictated to us by the great scholar, the Mufti of the Hanafis in Medina, Sayyid Muhammad ibn Asad. May Allah have mercy upon him. Abu Faraj al-Asbahani mentions with his chain of narration that a magician, while in the presence of Al-Walid ibn Uqba, would enter the inside of a cow and come out again. Jundub saw him and went to his house and collected his sword. Then when the magician had entered the cow, he said, "Do you succumb to magic with your eyes wide open?" He then struck the middle of the cow, cutting it, and the magician in half. Those present became greatly alarmed, and Al-Walid had him imprisoned and informed Uthman of what had happened. Governing the prison was a Christian, and when he saw Jundub praying by night and fasting by the day, he said, "By Allah, these are such people that the worst of them are truly voracious." He then appointed a person to look after the prison and himself traveled to Kufa, and upon entering asked after the best of its people. He was directed to Ash'ath ibn Qais, and he went to him and asked to be put up as a guest. He saw Abu Muhammad al-Ash'ath sleeping by night and calling him to share breakfast with him in the morning. He left him and again asked after the best person in Kufa, and he was directed to Jarir ibn Abdullah, and again he found him sleeping by night and calling him to share his breakfast with him. He then faced the Qibla and said, "My Lord is the Lord of Jundub, and my religion is the religion of Jundub," and he accepted Islam. This story was also recorded with variations by Bayhaqi and a Sunan al-Kubra. He mentions with his chain of narration to Abu al-Aswad that Al-Walid ibn Uqba was in Iraq and a magician would perform in his court. He would behead a person and then cry out his name, and the man would stand shrieking and his head would be returned to him. The people would say, "Transcendent is Allah, this man grants life to the dead." A righteous man from the Muhajirun saw him, radiyallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'in. The next day he gathered his sword and came before the magician, who was performing as usual, and drawing his sword, cut his head off and said, "If he is true, let him bring himself back to life." Al-Walid ordered the governor of the prison, Dinar, to imprison him, and he was imprisoned.